Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Goddess Revolution with me, your host, Leeanne MacDonald, where we are awakening women around the world to their potential. So in today's episode, I am absolutely delighted to welcome Judy Prokopiak, who's in the USA, in Florida, I believe, and she is a master life reinvention coach and spiritual practitioner. So welcome to the show, Judy.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here and help awaken more women to the truth.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to talk about something in today's show that I feel personally, and I know you do as well. It's trauma. It's trauma healing. And it's really, in my perception and my own opinion, the first place any woman should start if they are looking to begin a journey of transformation. So I don't know if you want to start off by sharing a little bit about why it is so important that that's where we start.
Sure. So very interesting that I started learning about trauma because when I became a coach, health coach, life coach, about 7-8 years ago, a lot of my clients were coming with, significant trauma. And so I was like wanting to make sure that I could support them, right? What I didn't realize was that I had trauma, right? I was like, oh, wait, every human on the planet has a trauma, right? And so when I started diving into it, what does trauma look like? What is trauma, there? Because I didn't realize I didn't even know I had anxiety, right? I didn't know procrastination, perfectionism, indecision, relationship issues, health challenges, self-sabotage, like stories of shame and unworthiness. And I didn't know all of that was actually trauma response. And so once I started learning that this was what was going on for me and then everybody else, and that's when I really dove into, to learning that, because all of these things, no matter how many, whatever you're doing in your life, right? Whether you're a coach or a mom or what business owner or, just living your life, this trauma responses are really keeping us stuck and we just don't realize it. So we're wondering why we can't get ahead. We're wondering why we're not creating our, following our dreams. We wonder why we're not, achieving the things that we have these goals and why we keep getting stuck. And it really is trauma, just like you said. It's really the first thing that we need to look at.
Yeah, and we can't really transform until that's, been looked at and paid attention to, and we've got curious about it. So when we're talking about trauma, we're not talking always about major significant life events. This is just a situation that we might have experienced and we've had a significant emotional response to it. Isn't that right?
Exactly. We had some experience that happened to us as a child, or even could have been yesterday, and we gave it meaning, right? It was a highly charged negative experience. We gave it meaning. We, made it mean something about us, about life, about other people, about money, about relationships, about whatever, about men, whatever. We gave it meaning, and then we created these beliefs. We created these, stories for ourselves and these beliefs, and then they were running the show, right? And the challenging thing is that the trauma energy is kind of holding it in place. All of that negative emotion, that's why it gets stuck in your body, and these processes that are out there now, and some things that I do and you do as well are there to help us move that energy out, release the trauma experience, the energy around it, the emotions, and then we're left with the wisdom of what to do with that.
There's probably lots of women watching this now thinking, well, how do I know if I've got trauma? Like, where do I begin on this trauma journey? So what does it look like? What does trauma look like in our day-to-day?
Well, it looks like a lot of different things, right? So it looks like self-sabotage, right? You say you want to create something in your life, or you want to lose weight, or you want to, you have an eating disorder perhaps, right? Or that was my story. I was an athlete, very, prominent swimmer, and then I developed an eating disorder. And those beliefs around I'm not the right size, and, all of these things sort of were following me my whole life, right? So it really looks like you're struggling with relationships, right? Because you have fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of, fear of connection, right? It looks like something with your health and well-being. Like I said, we're kind of sabotaging ourselves because we don't feel worthy. We don't feel like we're enough. In your money and your business or your career, right? You're like afraid to leave this job and go do this, or you're afraid to, right? You have a lot of fear, anxiety, worry, right? Because you have all of these thoughts, these toxic thoughts that are kind of taking over, where I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I don't fit in, whatever your stories are that you created, I'm not smart enough. They're always that some form of that, right? I'm not something enough.
Yeah.
Or I'm too something. I can't be too, I'm too much. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because when I started my personal development journey, I got stuck on what I now call the trauma hamster wheel. So at the time, I thought I was doing all the right things. I was following all these gurus. I was practicing affirmations. I was reframing life. I was, trying to be positive and meditating and doing all of the things that, we both do now. But because I wasn't transmuting the trauma, it was like I would get so far around the hamster wheel and it would come, back. So I literally was pedaling and pedaling. And it got to the stage where I actually thought, I can't do this. I just can't be this evolved, awake, conscious person. It's just not meant for me because, I've tried to, I've even contemplated beating myself with banana leaves because I watched a YouTube video about, in awakening that goddess within. And this is why, so if you're watching this now and you've been on the journey and you haven't kind of reached that, you've reached the top of the mountain, but you haven't kind of come over the other side, you've kind of fallen back down a bit again, then you've got up, and then you've come back down again. It's all down to trauma. It's all down to unresolved emotional trauma.
Yeah,
and Judy
like
is the master at trauma transmuting. So she's like the transmuting master of all the trauma in the world, and she's she's famous in all the circles I run in as being the go-to person for trauma. So how do we break the cycles? How do we break those trauma cycles without involving banana leaves?
Banana leaves, not so much. You could give it a try, might be fun, but the reality is that we have to go back into the experience, and most of us are afraid to do that, right? Because it's painful. We don't want to re-experience that. We don't want to, I know I had this thing sort of like, if I let all this emotion up, it's going to be like a volcano, or like, I don't know if I could get it back in, right? Yeah. It was kind of like the Jack in the Box. So anytime that stuff would come up to try to be healed, right? Because they're wake-up calls to say, your soul is crying out to say, wake up, it's time to live your purpose and live your life and follow your dreams and be the person you're meant to be, right? Mm-hmm. But then we have all of this stuff, and so we just stay stuck. And so we really have to go back into that experience, but you need to be in a safe, supported place, right? You need to feel safe connection with someone. That's where a coach or a therapist is helpful, right? But what we've discovered, you and I, and doing this work, is that it really is taking someone lovingly into that space and letting them release all of that emotion, letting them come up with the beliefs that were in there, bring them into the consciousness. Then we have awareness around it. We're like, oh, right. So now we've released all this emotional charge. We now have awareness of the story we've been believing that we created, most likely as a child, and we've just been living it out. That, I'm not something enough. I don't belong here. I don't fit in. My voice doesn't matter. I don't matter, right? All of this stuff. And then we create a new, really, this is the thing that is the most powerful, create a new enlightened state for yourself, new awareness, new truth, new beliefs, right? And it all comes from this awakening the divine, awakening to your connection, right? One of the things, I do this, like, get your second act together, but don't bring your first act with you.
Yeah.
Like, we're just bringing the first act BS with us, and that's really the challenge. It's like, so we have to kind of that's how we transmute it, right? And that's how we transform ourselves, right? Because otherwise we're just kind of evolving a little bit, right? We're constantly changing, but to have these quantum leaps, to have these, like what you've been doing with the Everyday Goddess Revolution, with all that's happening, right? To have these quantum transformational leaps, you really got to get in and you've just got to do that work.
And it's a relief as well. When we started working together about the same time, we came into this E4 trauma method, which is what you're talking about, which was created by Dr. Erin Haskell Fall, who is a doctor of divinity. And she created this method, and what a relief. Like it feels a bit awkward and a little bit, are these very simple questions actually going to create any transformation? Like, I genuinely didn't believe it. But then when you go through the process, and what you said earlier about trauma minus emotion equals wisdom, it's so true. So you allow that emotion to come up, and you get to that stage where it's like reaches its crescendo, and then it starts to just disappear and neutralize, and then you see new possibility or new potential, which is what we're all about. It's about awakening women to the possibilities and potential within them in life. It's such a wonderful experience that everybody, all women around the world, needs to kind of embody this work, because you can do it with professionals like Judy, but after a while it becomes ingrained in you, doesn't it? You kind of automatically are E4 trauma in yourself as you're going about life.
It's so true, right? It's like you get this aha, somebody, whether it's like us or somebody that is trained in this method, right, to take you through it. But then after a while, and then you have these ahas, and you start to realize how how you created these beliefs for yourself. And then you find you start to notice where am I really stuck? And then you can do this work on yourself, right? So that's the power, is that, and I always say, like, I don't want to be your guru or your coach forever. I want to be your friend. I want to be your, I want to be your companion. I want to collaborate with you, all of the things. But it's like, I want you to not need me, eventually, right? So that's
awesome. And how has your life changed? So from trying to do life with the trauma still in you versus now, what's been like the number one significant change in how you show up or how you live your life now?
Yeah, I would say peace and purpose, right? I was really looking for peace, right? My whole life, I was like, I just want peace of mind, peace around food, peace around, like I was like looking out there for my peace, right?
Where's the peace?
Where's the peace, right? If you would just clean your room, I'll have peace, People in the traffic, if you would just drive right, I'll have peace, right? It's like, so I was really looking for this peace, but it was inner, but there was so much going on inside of me, I couldn't be at peace, right? So I became a human doing, because I didn't want to be a human being, because it was like, I don't want to be with this. Like, it was a hot mess, right? So now I just have so much peace, because I really understand, and I've released so much of those beliefs. I don't believe them anymore. I don't have all this things about I'm not enough and I don't fit in, and I can't do a Facebook Live, and what about rejection and abandonment, and what if I fail, and I got to be perfect, and right? I was stuck in all of that. And I think that's where a lot of women get stuck. And then purpose, right? We know that when you can heal these trauma wounds, you really, can step into your purpose, because the truth is, what we're here to do is what we've overcome, is what we've transmuted ourselves, is what we've, what we've created, right? Even if you saying you're an artist, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your art, if you don't believe you're worthy, you're never going to put your art out into the world. So this applies to everybody, right? So it's so beautiful.
It's like the golden bridge to why we're meant to be here, isn't it? It's like that golden bridge over to us living our dreams and living all of those visions that we see inside of us.
Yeah, so true. So true.
So exciting. Thank you so much, Judy. You're going to join me on another episode, and I'm excited because we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to explore and speak to somebody who's gone through the E4 trauma process with Judy and how that's impacted her life and how she's able to show up. And then also, Judy's going to come back on another show and actually do a real life trauma process. So I hope that you'll come back and watch that. So thank you so much, Judy, for being here today and shining your wonderful light with the world. And we will see you on another episode.
My pleasure.